Josh Ramaker's with us. He is with the Rice County Public Health Department. May is Bike Month, and that's the main reason you're here, right, Josh?
That is the main reason I am here. You're correct.
You are the SHIP coordinator, which stands for
Statewide Health Improvement Partnership.
Oh shoot, I said program. I thought it was program.
You would have been right about 3 months ago, and we recently just changed from program to a partnership because everything we do is in partnership with somebody else. If we couldn't partner, we couldn't do anything by ourselves. So we decided we'd go with partnership, and it kind of defines us a little bit more.
Well, that's kind of true with anything in life.
Absolutely, it is.
You're better with help than flying solo.
That's right. We do a lot of different things, and we really try to break down silos. And that's, if you go to you work where you work in radio, and I work where I work in public health, but there might be something that we partner on that we're both doing. It's a lot more efficient if we can kind of partner together, and usually costs less money, and you're a lot more efficient. So it's been a good way to go. I
know we were just chatting before going on the air. You say you like to cross train, so you do some biking.
Absolutely. Yep. No, I have a bike, and it's probably even nicer than I even need. But I do run a lot, and I've run a lot of races, but that's hard on your body sometimes. The repetitive motion, like you're talking about, just riding bikes, sometimes it's hard on you. But so I try to use it as a cross trainer, once or twice a week, and then just this weekend I've been trying to get a lot better in the summer here as far as all these short trips that you could take on a bike. A lot quicker sometimes, and it's just more enjoyable.
Like down to the store or something?
Absolutely. The grocery store, or go to Vote or the library, or whatever. It just seems to be a little bit better of a habit to get into.
Yeah. Well, in a lot of areas, it's just a matter of the route to get there, too.
Absolutely. And sometimes that takes a little pre-planning to figure out a better route. Say if you don't like to be with busy traffic or lots of stop signs or whatever it happens to be, but typically there's routes we can figure out.
But we are blessed here to have many bike trails.
Absolutely we are. We're blessed to have the bike trails that we have in the city, and then Sakata, obviously. And then in the near future, White Sands will be hooking up with the part at any time there, which is great. Hopefully this fall that'll happen, and then the next couple of years we'll be hooking up to Northfield, and then hopefully all the way over to Cannon Falls. So it's coming. I know it's been a lot of years that the talk has happened, and now it's finally here, and the land's been purchased between Faribault and Northfield, and they're getting ready to go. So that's exciting.
Typically, I don't ride a lot on the streets just because I think it's kind of dangerous. I usually stick to the trails, but the last couple of days when I rode on our streets for the most part. I did go on the trails too, but streets as well. More hills to deal with.
Yeah, the hills can be something to deal with certain people. If you have speeds in your bike, it can be a little easier to shift up or down. Yeah, if you don't have the gears, sometimes you got to pay attention to those hills a little bit more. But with time, you can get your legs strengthened up and you're ready to go.
But that's good for you. My thighs are really hurting today. They're burning.
Absolutely.
Which is probably a good thing, right?
It is a good thing, yep. It doesn't feel like a good thing, but it definitely is. And I rode on Friday up to my sister's in Mankato there, and I was in Mankato when I started. I didn't go from Faribault. That'd be a heck of a ride.
I did that twice.
Yeah, it's a heck of a ride.
It is.
But you notice it. You notice the next day if you haven't rode a lot, or even if you run a lot, it's a different workout, so it's nice.
Yeah, I wouldn't be tackling that on the first weekend of riding.
Right, no way.
But May is Bike Month. There's, what I love about biking is you can do it when you're 80.
That's right. I love it. Love that too. And sometimes people think when we're promoting Bike Month and doing city proclamations of promote Bike Month in the county, it's this is for the expert bike rider, but it's absolutely not. It's the exact opposite. It can be anybody from the novice to the expert, and you can do it at any level you want to do, almost wherever you want to do it. So even if we're not telling everybody to give up their car and ride every single day, but if you can ride just starting one day in May, you might trickle into a couple, and maybe one person decides I'm going to ride a lot now, and that's all we're really looking for.
It was so enjoyable the last couple of days. The weather was perfect, no bugs, not a lot of wind.
Yep.
My neck even hurts though from cranking to look to see if traffic's coming when I'm crossing the street.
That's right. Well, at least you're looking. We appreciate that.
Well, you have to do that.
That's right.
That's a no-no if you don't.
You got it.
We're going to talk about some of the activities that they're going to be doing in observance of May Bike Month with Josh when AM Minnesota continues. Tomorrow, John Dvorak, Rice County Fair Secretary, who's actually in the station right now, is going to be visiting with Jerry about the fair. And we've just got all kinds of great shows coming your way. We'll be in Northfield for our Professional Pride Realty show, talking about what's happening in Northfield community-wise. Eric Lundeen will be with us from the Rice County Social Services.
We're stopping and see them.
KDHL Agri Boosters include Ag Power Enterprises, your John Deere dealer in Owatonna, Hollandale, Belle Plaine, also Osage and Northwood, Iowa. And Northland Buildings for quality post-frame construction. Head to the website northlandbuildings.com. Josh Ramaker with us this morning. He's from the the Rice County Public Health Department, Public Health Nursing Service, I guess is what officially is called, right?
Yep, you got it.
And you're the SHIP coordinator?
Exactly.
Statewide?
Statewide Health Improvement Partnership.
Partnership.
You're close there with the state because our funding does come from the Minnesota Department of Health and then goes to each county and gets split up by population. So you're mostly correct there.
So you deal with more than just biking?
Absolutely. We deal with most of our areas. It's wellness in general, but we look for populations to deal with. So we work with schools, we work with workplaces, we work with hospitals and try to connect the community to their facilities and services. And then also just in the community in general for physical activity improvements, so active living, and then better foods. And we also work on, like I said, the healthcare in the communities also.
You know, when I was a young person, I know it's hard to believe, but at one time I was a young person. I had knee problems, you know. And the doctors at the Mayo Clinic, I went to the doctors at the Mayo Clinic a lot as a young person because of my knee problems. The doctors recommended that I ride bike, which my dad was like, that doesn't make any sense. And the doctor said, yes, it does. He's going to strengthen his knees. It's lower impact than running or, you know, pounding the pavement.
Absolutely. Yeah, anytime you can, if you have problems like that with your knees or ankles or whatever it happens to be, I am a runner, and if I get any minor injury, you feel it. I mean, you feel it in that pavement. It's hard on your body. So anytime, that's why the cross training is important, to mix it up. And if you can't run, that's okay too. Nothing wrong with that. Walk at low impact or ride your bike for sure. And it's much better for your knees if you do have issues.
I think it's obvious why we're supposed to be riding our bikes, being active, burning calories. It's good exercise, and it doesn't feel like exercise to me anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. There's the obvious physical activity component that we kind of all aware of, and it's good for you. And there is the mental health component too. That if you have stress or anxiety or anything like that, physical activity can be a tremendous first start for you, and it can really help you out on a lot of that stuff. So even if it's not physical activity or the mental health component, just to reduce traffic on the road, sometimes Faribault's not always an issue, but sometimes areas can get high traffic, and sometimes it can be even quicker to be on a bike. And then obviously there's no real pollution coming from a bike, so there's that aspect too.
Yeah. What I loved about living you grew up in Preston, I grew up in Spring Valley. What's that, 15 miles apart, something like that?
Pretty close.
So, I don't know about you, but when I was a kid, I could go from one end of town to the other in basically no time at all. It's like 2 miles from one end of town to the other.
Yep, absolutely. You think about it when you're young, you didn't even consider the car as an option, or mom or dad giving you a ride because they weren't gonna. Or you just went. You just hopped on your bike and you went all over town. Absolutely. And I think for a short portion, we kind of got away from that, and everything became cars, and everything in our lives was how do we get there in a car. And it's not to say that we still aren't going to be that, because we're not going to go too far backwards, but just to take a few opportunities to use your bike, like you said, to go back to be a kid almost. And you kind of do feel like a kid when you ride your bike, and it's fun.
There wasn't as much, what's the word I'm looking for? There's a lot more concern these days about, stranger danger, that sort of thing. That wasn't even thought of back when I was a kid.
Right. No, there's no doubt that that's an issue that, like any time, you do have to be aware of it and teach your kids. And, the safety aspect of riding correctly, that's something we've taken into aspect. As even me as an advocate that does this for a living, and we want active living spaces, sometimes I'll see kids or adults riding their bike, and that's great, but maybe not following the rules, or they go through a stop sign when they shouldn't. And even myself, I get a little annoyed at that sometimes. So I really took a step back and decided we need to do something about this in an educational aspect. So not just tell people to ride, we also want to teach them how to ride correctly so that maybe they will follow the rules, which would be great. Just like in cars, the same thing. Not everybody follows the rules there. And we actually have a walk, bike, fun curriculum. So we'll teach little kids, K through 3, for a couple hours, everything that's appropriate when you're walking around, how to follow laws and those types of things. And then also we have about a 4-hour bike curriculum that we'll go teach kids how to ride correctly and how to pay attention and signal, stop, and do all the correct things. So we do that also, and we've done that in Northfield and at Jefferson Elementary here, and we'll be doing it one more time from the summers. So we try to take the whole component, not just say to ride, but we want to make sure you actually do know what you're doing.
Now, I don't see a lot of kids signaling on their bikes, though.
Right, I agree. It's something that we need to work on, and I guess it just started this year. We took the first aspect of SHIP to say, all right, we're going to be the people that takes responsibility, and we're going to try to educate kids and adults. And we've even considered, maybe we could try to get it back into driver's ed with teaching cars how to ride in coexistence with a or drive with a biker, or pedestrians in general, because I just don't think people always are walking or biking as much as we maybe used to. So sometimes when you're driving a car, you aren't quite aware of how to treat that person or coexist with them either. So even if you don't necessarily ride or walk, it's good for you to learn these things.
Well, I know I can tell you, it's frustrating if you're riding out in the country and you see people riding side by side by side by side in your lane, and you got to go way out in the other lane to go around them. They don't move.
Absolutely, and there's bike etiquette, and sometimes we pick out the bikes and say, oh, they definitely did something wrong there, because it's easy. Definitely cars, they do the same types of things, do things they shouldn't do, so no doubt. But as bikers, you're always going to lose, aren't you? If you get hit by a car or do something wrong, we need to take the extra step. As a pedestrian or a biker, you need to take the extra step to really make sure you're doing safe activities, just to make it easier for everyone.
Yeah, a couple of years ago, I remember coming to a stop sign here on the way to work, and somebody was on their bike, and you mentioned the stop sign earlier, over by Parker Cole Funeral Home. They didn't even stop. They didn't even slow down. They actually sped up to go through the stop sign. I was stopped at the stop sign, about ready to go across the street. I rolled down my window and I hollered out, "Hey, you're supposed to stop." And of course, you know what they did.
Right. Yeah, and that's that's an educational opportunity, right? Maybe they didn't take to it, but yeah, a lot of people don't realize if you're on the road and you're biking, you are treated exactly the same as a car. So you have all the same rights and all the not same rights as a car has. So if you ride your bike on the road, which is where you should be, you do the exact same stuff as a car does. And you really should only ride on the sidewalk if that's the only place you feel safe, because it can be dangerous coming in and out of those blocks.
Even there, you should
and
stop.
You should stop every single time, and it can be more dangerous. Cars don't see you coming. If you're flying through there, it's hard for them to react to you. So I know as a real young kid, if you don't feel safe, ride on the sidewalk, and that's okay. But as you get older, you need to be on the road and treat yourself as such. And you could be right on the right side if you feel safe there, or you can ride right in the lane to make sure people aren't riding too close to you or driving too close to you or anything like that. So just make sure you do what you feel safe.
One of the things that I think is so cool is to see whole families out biking. There's mom, there's dad, and there's the kids all biking together. I just think that's awesome.
Absolutely, it's a great family activity. You do it individually, whatever you want to do. Yeah, some of the best memories I have as a kid, riding to Little League every single day. It's just what I did.
Oh yeah, me too.
Yeah, and then what you do after Little League? You rode to the pool, or you rode all over the rest of the town. And it's just what you did, and it's a fun thing. And like you said, as a family, you can go out there for 20 minutes or an hour or 2 hours, whatever you want to do, and you can kind of break it up into how long you want to be out there in this beautiful kind of weather. It's
might as well enjoy it together.
That's right.
And it sure beats jumping in a car.
Absolutely.
As you said.
Mm-hmm.
If it's going to be a short trip, just jump on the bikes.
Yep, and it's definitely, even for myself, like I was saying earlier, it's a habit. We need to get into a better habit, and it's something we can do. It takes a while to kind of break that, to think, it's only a mile. It's only 3 to 5 minutes or something like that. Just start small and see what you feel comfortable with, and just do your best.
Well, I can tell you, after going out the last couple of days, I'm a little sore today.
That's right, you earned it.
Not used to going out much.
And it'll take time to build that up a little bit, but it's all for the better.
We had a whole winter off. Didn't get out much last year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and again, it's habits. It's year by year. You have to just keep at it, and it's a good way for exercise and just go feel good.
But it is so enjoyable. I never even thought of the mental health aspect.
Absolutely, and Glenn Holman here is a gentleman that does a lot of biking, and he actually used to be a psychologist, and
mm-hmm.
I didn't actually realize that, and he was doing a little bike presentation for us for Worksite Wellness just last week for the county here, to kind of promote Riverbend and the bike fleet they do have out there. They have a 16 bike mountain bike fleet that you can go rent the whole thing, or one bike and enjoy that, or whatever you want to do. And he was kind of talking about his experiences and how it makes you feel, and I brought up one thing and I said it kind of makes you sound like what I've said for a long time. Biking or physical activity in general, it's a lot cheaper than a psychologist. and it goes to be true for a lot of points. And funny thing is, I didn't realize Glenn used to be a psychologist.
Yeah. What did he say?
He's like, yeah, it's exactly true, and I used to be a psychologist. Half the room knew he was, but I didn't, so luckily I was right.
Yeah, well, and it does make sense. You get the, what is it?
You get endorphins going, and
that's supposed to help you in terms of your mental health, too. We're going to be talking about that, by the way, on Thursday as Eric Lundin stops by. He's going to talk about the habits of emotionally resilient people. Sounds interesting, doesn't it?
Absolutely. We're working public health, and I know that in workplace wellness and resiliency can be a big deal.
So May is Mental Health Month. It's National Bike Month. It's also National Law Month. Rice County Attorney John Fossum will be with us on Friday to talk about that. All kinds of things in the month of May.
I'll have to ask him about some bike laws.
Now we say April flowers bring May showers, right?
I think so.
Or no, April showers bring May flowers. That's how it goes. April showers bring May flowers. So Eric Lundin with us on Thursday. And in between on Wednesday, we'll be heading up to Professional Pride Realty in Northfield, our community Northfield show. We do a chamber Northfield show and a community Northfield show. And this week, we do the community Northfield show. So what are we doing locally to observe National Bike Month?
Yeah, absolutely. We do a lot of great things here locally, and a lot of things were already happening before we decided to kind of put it all together and promote. But one really cool thing we've done is, I feel like when your manager either supports something or doesn't support something at whatever level, you know it, right? So we've really tried to get these bike proclamations for the cities and the county to go out ahead and say, hey, we support this, and let people know that it's important in this county. And with the bike trails coming and development around that, we know that is an important thing in Rice County. So Rice County has proclaimed it to be Bike Month. Lonsdale did, Northfield did, and Faribault will actually be, I believe it's tomorrow night, they'll be proclaiming it to be Bike Month. So to me, it starts there as your government officials saying this is an important thing, and your leaders, that's a great thing. So we really support that, and we're thankful for them to support us back in the bike events. So that's tremendous. Also this week we have Bike to School Day, and it's a National Bike to School Day. So this Wednesday will be all over the country, and Rice County also. So we do have some events. Not every town has specifically organized rides, but you can definitely still ride your bike anytime you want, or specifically that day. So this Wednesday the 10th. But in Faribault, there'll be Jefferson Elementary, Lincoln Elementary, and Roosevelt Elementary. Will all three have organized rides. There'll be Roosevelt will start at Washington Recreation Center. Jefferson will start at Spring Greenway Park, and Anytime Fitness will take you to Lincoln. And they're about 5 to 10 minute rides, so there'll be permission slips that were sent home and everything, and they can make sure they do wear their helmet. Parents are welcome to come volunteer, but we'll also have 2 to 4 volunteers that'll be there leading those kids to the schools also.
They have bike racks at the school still?
Well, they do have bike racks, but depending on how many kids show up that day, they might not have enough to handle all those. So it's kind of a chicken or egg thing, right? If we got this many kids riding to school, which would be a tremendous thing, eventually we could support them with bike racks. My program, we could support them with some more bike racks for some parking. So one other great thing about the school is connecting it to other things right outside of physical activity. Is there the CDC, Center for Disease Control? There's studies out there that show if you ride or walk to school or get a little extra physical activity, you will do better in school. So what a great thing. So even if you don't care about physical activity, and you probably want your kids to get good grades, there are studies that say yes, this is good for your kids, and they'll be able to focus better and they'll get higher test scores.
I was just going to ask why do they do better in school. I think you just answered.
Yeah, absolutely. It's similar to the mental health thing. It's just getting a little physical activity. They've done studies where they focus on your brain and kind of do the infrared and activity in there, and right before our physical activity, it's just your regular brain activity. But if you get a little burst of 5-10 minutes, it's way more activity, and a lot of teachers will start to do that during learning periods and right before tests to really get them going. And it's like getting warmed up for a big game.
Yeah, well, it kind of makes sense when you think about it. Good Lord made our bodies to move, not sit still.
Absolutely, and even as adults, we sit at our desks, and what do we do when we stand up? It's like, oh, gotta get going here. And even for kids, it's the same way. They don't want to sit there, and it's easier for them to get a little activity and work better.
They had a good idea in school. Maybe we should do this in the workplace with, FIAD and recess and those sorts of things.
That'd be pretty cool. Absolutely. And some places do kind of do stuff like that as far as the factories. They might, before each shift, And if there's a 3-shift workplace, they might have a stretching activity before each shift starts, because those insurance companies and everybody else knows that's worth it to stop you from being injured.
You just brought something up. Now, I don't stretch before I bike, and that may be one of the reasons why I'm sore today.
It might be part of it, and if you aren't going to stretch a little bit before you bike, just take it easy, for your first mile.
Correct.
And just kind of let your body get warmed up, because there's stuff called synovial fluid in your knees, and if you don't let that get warmed up and you lubricate your joints, you will get sore.
Maybe that's what I did.
That probably is what you did.
Maybe I went too fast too soon.
Absolutely. Even as a runner, you can run a marathon, but if you take that first mile too fast and you don't let your body warm up and switch into the right activity mode, it's going to wreck the rest of your activity and won't be nearly as fun.
But you stretch before a marathon.
Well, running's a little bit different. So running, actually, you stretch afterwards. Stretching before long distance running doesn't really necessarily give you a lot of benefit. Sprinting, it does give you a little bit, but the marathoning, you want to stretch afterwards because your body wants to not stretch. So it feels really good when you stretch out after a long run.
Huh. Yeah. I'll be darned.
Yeah.
Obviously, I've never run any long runs. My body says no.
Sure.
Long bike ride, yes. Long run, no.
Right.
Again, Josh Ramaker is with us. He's from Rice County Public Health Nursing Service. He's their ship coordinator, talking about May being Bike Month. Talked about the bike racks. They have some newfangled ones downtown. I don't know if you've noticed.
Yep.
They're not like the old bike racks we used to have.
Sometimes they'll call those old bike racks, they'll call them tire benders.
Okay.
Because your tires get stuck in there.
That makes sense.
With these newer styles, if you have a lock, yeah, you just pull up to them, and I guess they're kind of like a hitching post is what they're kind of called.
Yeah, right.
But I guess we could have kept them from a couple hundred years ago in the horses. Huh? But yeah, you just pull up to them, you can lock your bike right to it, and it sits there, and you don't have to worry about the bike rack taking up all the space either if you don't have 10 people there. So yeah, bike racks still work great too, but you see those a little more decorative too downtown.
See, it's unfortunate you need that stuff, because when I was a kid, I had a bike lock. I do remember that, but I don't remember using it a lot.
Yeah, it's I'll be honest, I haven't had a bike lock up until about a month ago. And when I decided to do this thing, start riding, and if I was going to go have a bite to eat, meet some friends, start riding my bike, you definitely want to have a lock, chances are somebody probably won't take it, but you're not going to feel real good about it if somebody does happen to hop on that bike. So for $20, I bought a really nice combination lock. It's really easy to use. They set it for me before I left. Simple and easy. You can throw it right in your backpack or connect it right to your bike when you're not using the lock, actually. So it works great, and for $20, it's worth it.
So it's something you'd recommend?
Absolutely. And if you're in need of a helmet or a lock, kind of a discounted price, we've actually worked with Northfield and their police department that they can get you discounted helmets there and locks also if it's something you're in need of and just maybe you can't afford or need a different option than at a store. I
know, being the safety guy you are, even though I never wear a helmet, you would recommend that we do so.
I would absolutely recommend that you do so. And like we talked about earlier, your generation didn't even really exist.
No.
My generation, I'm 35, we started to use them a little bit. I didn't necessarily when I was a kid. Now, when somebody buys a bike, they buy a helmet, and that's just what you do. It's similar to the seatbelt thing. So there's no data that says it's not a good idea. So I would always recommend the helmet. And they make really nice, comfortable, breathable.
It's not a law though, right?
It's not a law, but it should be strongly recommended.
To wear a helmet?
Absolutely.
No matter what age?
Absolutely, no matter what age. You might be a great biker, but a lot of people, somebody might run into you. You might be volunteering, Gordy, with your little brother. He might slow down unexpectedly, and you might go right over the handlebars.
Well,
right?
That happened to me back in the day when I was in the Big Brothers Big Sisters program. The funniest thing about it is, I said, "What are you doing?" And he said, "I saw a pretty girl." That was pretty cool. He was about 10 at the time.
It's a great excuse.
Saw a pretty girl. That's why he stopped. He wanted to get a stationary look at her. Meanwhile, I forgot I was behind him, and I went over the handlebars as I hit my brakes. Well, again, special activities going on. I'm sure they can find all this on your website.
Yeah,
right?
For the most part, we've been putting them on our. You go to our website, or also even more convenient, you go to our Facebook site. So Rice County Public Health, just on Facebook. And we've got our events live on there. So all three of those elementary schools events are on there. The Lonsdale Elementary School event is on there. Northfield, they'll be kind of doing their own thing. So if you want to find those events and information, you can there. And don't forget, the 15th through the 19th is Bike to Work week. They get a whole week. And then the 19th is Bike to Work day. So we really try to focus on Bike to Work day. And don't forget to bike to the library here in town at Buckham, and you'll get a special prize if you do bike there. And
Even if you're adult?
Anybody can, yep. And if you bike to F-Town on the 19th, they'll have a special prize for you too.
I can put that in my water bottle.
Maybe.
Some of the apple. I like the apple. Forget what they call it now.
Like the ciders?
Yeah, I like the apple.
Right on.
The apple brew that they have there at F-Town. Put that in my water bottle.
There you go.
I don't think so. Probably not a good thing.
Probably, yeah. Just like driving a car and drinking too much, probably don't do that with a bike.
It'd be like having pop in your water bottle. It dehydrates you. It doesn't really help. Right?
You are correct. Yep.
You want to have water.
You want to have water.
For sure. And it really should be room temperature.
Well, typically, if you're on a bike, I try to put it in there cold, but real quickly it
I put
turns
lots
the
of ice
temperature.
cubes in my water bottle,
Yep.
typically.
Yep.
But I was just reading not too long ago that what's best for you is room temperature water. I didn't realize that.
Yeah, I think you are right as far as it reacts with your body
Yeah.
more naturally.
It's better for your body to have room temperature water as opposed to really ice cold water.
Absolutely. It's
And let's
good
be
stuff.
honest. Doesn't everybody like ice cold water?
It's very good.
It's sensational. It's like candy almost. I never used to think that, but in recent years I've become a big fan of water.
Absolutely.
And we've got some good water around here. Lots of water around here. We got over 11,000 lakes in Minnesota.
Just a little bit.
Lots of water. So Josh, if you had one final tip to give to folks, what would it be?
Well, my final tip would be don't think that you have to be an expert bike rider. Just get out there. Yeah,
I'm not.
absolutely. Just get out there and just ride once. Whatever distance. If it's 1 minute, 3 minutes, 30 minutes, ride once this month and do your best, and maybe you'll choose to do it more. Maybe you won't.
And it's true. They say it's like riding a bike when you first learn. I mean, I picked it up, I don't know how many years after I was riding, and no problem. So, believe me, you're never too old. Thanks, Josh. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
That concludes today's edition. I better pedal on out of here as we conclude AM Minnesota. Tomorrow, again, John Dvorak will join Jerry. You're in tune to KDHL AM, Faribault, Minnesota.